Hey guys, Station X here. It has been almost 1 month since the Nintendo Switch OLED came out. It's kind of hard to believe that a few months ago that this thing was just announced, and there was only speculations and rumors before then. But now that we have a month of using the Nintendo Switch OLED, just getting a feel for it, I felt like I wanted to share my thoughts and experiences with the OLED itself. But something that I wanted to fully really discuss about that I didn't really get to do in my previous video was just the differences between this and the Nintendo Switch Lite. I don't think I did enough comparison to this thing compared to this thing. I mainly just focused about the main kind of upgrade difference between the original Switch and this. Technically, at the moment, there are 4 different models of Switch. 2 of them look exactly the same. We have the OLED being the most recent one, and the Nintendo Switch Lite being the only handheld portable one. With that being said, I really wanted to take this first part of the video as me talking about the OLED and Switch and how it benefits someone who had a Switch Lite that wants to maybe get something new. So to quickly brief about the Nintendo Switch Lite in case you haven't heard of the Nintendo Switch Lite before, is strictly a portable version of the system that costs $200 instead of $300 or $350. As you can see, the screen is a little bit smaller compared to an actual Nintendo Switch, and the controllers are permanently attached to this thing, and it cannot play on the TV. It is strictly portable. Now, this thing I've lampooned in the past, not necessarily on a video because I try to be a little fair about it, but over time of me just getting used to the idea of this thing and now finally owning one for a few months, I don't have as strong of an opinion on it as I did before. And I mean, to be fair, this thing is fairly resilient if you wanted to give it to a kid. This thing does not, I don't see this thing get destroyed as often when it's in kids' hands compared to this thing that I see all the time get destroyed. But honestly, for something that's saves you $100 or $150 in some cases, it's not something that I would necessarily say is boo, this is bad. But that's not the point. My point is, if you have owned something like this for a long time and didn't really either thought it was okay or just was not, you're wanting something more, the fact that this thing can be a viable option, I mean, you're probably thinking that these 2 things cater to 2 separate parts of the Nintendo Switch fan base. And while yes, that is true, I do think that if you own a Switch Lite, there's much more of a significance to buy an OLED compared to the original Switch, for one reason, and that's because the main upgrades that the Nintendo Switch OLED has compared to the other versions of the Switch is that it's mainly focused on its portability aspect and not so much the TV aspect, because the Nintendo Switch of course has 2 modes: being able to play on the TV and being able to play portably. And so this thing caters to the one market that this thing also caters to as far as its improvements, and that is the people who play portably. If you're the one who doesn't play portably, then yeah, this thing would just kind of be useless and not really worth $150 at all. But people who own Nintendo Switch Lites, I feel have much more to gain for buying a Nintendo Switch OLED compared to a just regular Nintendo Switch Lite. And so honestly, the fact that the screen of course is obviously way bigger, the color difference is just because of the OLED making it brighter, more popping out. The fact that it has a kickstand, so you don't necessarily, you could play the things on portable mode and onto a tabletop mode, and vice versa. Just the fact that you can do so much more with this portably compared to this thing. If you're someone who wanted to have something more, or looking for something new for a portable system to play console quality games, this thing I feel is worth the $150 upgrade. Because I mean, the fact that the $100 difference between this and the original one was just the fact that it could play on the TV. So if you were maybe thinking about that but wasn't too sure, The extra $50 being the new screen, kickstand, etc. I would, if I was someone who only owned this, I would have immediately wanted to buy this. The where it gets to the I don't know if I should buy this thing isn't so much the Nintendo Switch Lite, in my opinion, but I feel like it's more so has to do with people who own either the version 1 or 2 of the original Switch. That's where I feel like the comparisons really, like, there's not so much to really talk about, because really the biggest thing that I've explained in the unboxing video is just the screens. Now, I've already talked about those types of differences and stuff, so I'm not going to go so much into that, but what I am going to do is talk about my experiences owning these two systems. Now, I've owned this for 4 years now, and I've always enjoyed it, but I always found myself, while I did alternate between portable and and the TV, I really just stuck on the TV, because for one, and I will say that this was my biggest problem, is this stupid kickstand. It doesn't even want to come out. There we go. So this thing is so flimsy, and I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. And I've expressed how much I hated it when in the OLED unboxing. But I just really did not like this thing. It was not very much a kickstand at all, because you couldn't put it on anything other than a hard surface. And even then, the slightest shake or, bumping into will cause this thing to fall. It was just something that the improvements that the OLED offered just really made me gravitate towards this one a lot more. This thing feels a lot more premium, by the way. So you have this metal stand that makes it really feel, it gives it a lot more heft to it. It definitely is a lot heavier compared to this. I mean, of course I got the Joy-Cons on there, but never mind the Joy-Cons. I mean, these two tablets very much, this one feels heavier compared to the original. And so I feel like if people were iffy on this for maybe, it just doesn't feel that great. I know back in the launch year of this, 2017, there were problems with Switches bending because of the fact that this would get too hot. And you wouldn't really have this problem with this because of just how they built it. And it just feels a lot more comfortable in your hands, I feel like, compared to this one. Because it's also just so slightly bigger. And so having that and just this way better stand, I really much enjoy the fact that I can just have this here on any surface. I could put it on a couch, I could put it on a bed, it doesn't matter. I could play this literally anywhere I want, and it will not topple over. I don't need something to prop it up to like stand it to make it go like this. If say I want to play it on a bed or a couch or any kind of surface that's not a table, I don't have to buy unnecessary accessories to even gain that option. I could just have it right there. To me, that's just like a no-brainer. It's just something that I very much enjoy. And while I still don't think that on paper the differences between the OLED and Switch is worth that $50 upgrade, or I mean, technically, if you're buying a whole new one, you spending $350 again just to have those improvements. I don't necessarily on paper think it's worth it, but it's just one of those things that once you have it in your hands and you're using it, I mean, it really just, you don't want to go back. The fact that the screen is so much bigger and it takes up the entire thing, there's no bezels, just really makes me happy. And the fact that this thing looks so much better. Games like Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, those types of games really show the capability of this display because of the fact that it just looks so much nicer. Any games that have very specific art styles and colors and stuff like that work wonderfully and look so beautiful on the Nintendo Switch OLED. And in my opinion, it's one of the main reasons why I just really like this thing. But if I did have to nitpick and complain about something, it's the fact that this thing right here is the bane of my existence. What is the difference between that one and the original one right here? The fact that this thing, I don't know if you could see it, has this really big little tab that you could just kind of like, boop, you could get your finger in there and just open it up. No problem. Right here, it's practically non-existent. You have this line, but it's not big enough for me to get my finger in there. My hands, obviously not wearing gloves when I use this, I don't have nails. I don't have long nails to really like get my fingernail in there and open it up. I'm not able to open it when I'm playing it, and it's just the fact that it affects the most important part of the system to me, and that is, you know, taking the cartridge out is just so annoying. There are times where I'm so fed up with it, I have to think to myself, is the game I want to put in this Nintendo Switch really worth me playing and doing all that effort just for me to play it? I don't know why they decide to make it so difficult for someone who does not have just any way to prop it open, to open it. You know, I just don't understand why they made it so difficult. It really reminds me of the PlayStation Vita, which is another handheld console that has a similar problem of having a notoriously difficult cartridge flap to open. I don't know why that's such an issue. You know, this was fine. They got it right the first time. I mean, even the Nintendo Switch Lite had a very similar thing. It wasn't as big, but it was still, I could open it. I didn't take 10 minutes to just do this the entire time. You know, that's without wearing gloves. So it's just, I really hate the fact that they changed that. And it's something that it gets me really aggravated, because it's just something that didn't need to be difficult, and something that they have already done before twice now, and just it's just something that they messed up for no reason, it felt like, in my opinion. But of course, this is not something to be like, I'm not buying an OLED for. This is worth the money, in my opinion, especially once you get your hands on it. But I mean, that's the one thing I would complain about. It's just 1% away from perfect. But yeah, while I wish they would have done more with the Nintendo Switch OLED, I think that what we got with this OLED is just so nice to me. I really can't go back to using this. This has been sitting retired in my console cabinet for a very long time now, for pretty much since I've gotten the OLED. I have not wanted to go back. I have no desire to go back. I didn't really care. Whereas this, I was so happy to be able to play portably and just feel like, wow, I'm actually like, I could, you know, have an easier time seeing what I'm doing because the screen's not as tiny. Not something that many people have an issue with, but, you know, my eyesights are bad. You know, I could see little details like little icons on the screen, or like mini maps, or whatever the hell they need for the UI. I can see it in really nice color, by the way. It just looks beautiful. And just the fact that it's so much bigger. In my opinion, I just think that and the kickstand and just the overall feel of it makes it worth it for me personally. But the Nintendo Switch OLED is very much, well, the Nintendo Switch in general, I feel like, is very much a personal preference. You know, if you're someone who wants a specific thing, a specific niche into the Nintendo Switch, I feel like Nintendo really has those types of people covered, whether you have a regular Nintendo Switch, a Switch Lite, or an OLED. You really have options here when it comes to what you want in essentially a hybrid console. If you want to go full into the hybrid, or have a way better version of it, or just want to stick to portable. I think hopefully if they ever do decide to make a revision or a next gen console that does a similar thing that the Switch does, I so badly hope that we do get that 4K experience similar to how like the Xbox One X or PS4 Pro, because I mean, I feel like it's silly to say that we're gonna get like a PS5 or Series X quality Nintendo handheld system, right? I feel like that's a little out there, but in my opinion, I just really think that this is the Nintendo Switch is one of my favorite systems, modern systems of all time. And so what you're able to do with it and the just options you have, I think is really nice. But that'll pretty much be it for this video. My name is Station X, and I hope you have a good day.